A little over 24 hours since the jury were sent to deliberate on Derek Chauvin's future, his verdict is due to be announced. Thousands of National Guard soldiers have been deployed where George Floyd was killed. The jury, who on their second day of deliberations, state of emergency has been declared in the region. Grateful to our colleagues in Ohio and Nebraska for their willingness to provide assistance and relief to our state troopers and law enforcement officers. Chicago Police Department said last week that it was also deploying extra resources throughout the city. Police Department said days off have been cancelled for members of the community safety team. So deliberated for 4 hours on Monday night. God, a long day. Jurors began to deliberate first at 4 p.m. on Monday, following closing arguments from the prosecution and defence. They adjourned at 8 p.m. Jurors will remain sequestered. Ah, there's the brilliant Dr. Tobin. Right, not long now, guys. Oh, what are you doing? They keep putting it back. It was like 6 o'clock, then 6:15, now 6:30. Oh, come on.
We are in verdict watch at Court TV in the George Floyd case. We want justice!
This case will be submitted to you for deliberation.
12 men and women will decide Derek Chauvin's fate.
You will be sequestered.
We have no idea what this jury is going to do.
We begin with breaking news.
You will get to see the verdict.
We're getting closer to the end.
It all comes down to this.
Minnesota versus Derek Chauvin. Live verdict watch coverage. Now on Court TV.
Why have the Telegraph got this on if the verdict isn't coming up? The nation is bracing itself for a verdict in the trial of Derek Chauvin. After closing arguments were delivered on Monday following 3 weeks of testimony, the jury were sequestered to begin their deliberations in the last phase of the trial. Mr. Chauvin, facing charges of second-degree murder, third-degree murder or second-degree manslaughter, pleaded not guilty. If Mr. Chauvin is found not guilty on all 3 charges, he will walk out of the courtroom a free man. No conviction or a conviction of manslaughter will likely result in protests in the cities. Photographs have shown buildings throughout the city boarded up in preparation for a possible unrest across the area. A tense atmosphere also comes amid days of unrest in the area following the shooting of 20-year Dante Wright, a black man, during a traffic stop. The courthouse, in which the anonymous jury will later deliver verdicts, has already been fortified with concrete barriers and razor wire ahead of the trial. Following Mr. Floyd's death in 2020, peaceful rallies gave way to nights of arson, looting, vandalism in cities across the US. What if Mr. Chauvin is convicted? He will be immediately taken into custody right from the courtroom. He will go to jail and will be held in jail until sentencing. If there is a prison sentence, which of course there would be, he will go to prison. Each count carries a different maximum sentence: 40 years for second-degree murder, 25 years for third-degree murder, and 10 years for second-degree manslaughter. Under Minnesota sentencing guidelines for a person with no criminal history, as in Mr. Chauvin's case, each murder charge carries a presumptive sentence of 12.5 years in prison, while manslaughter has a presumptive sentence of 4 years. However, prosecutors are also seeking a sentence that goes above the guidance, citing several aggravating factors. If jurors convict Mr. Chauvin, it's expected they will hear arguments about these aggravating factors and decide whether he should receive an increased sentence. Jurors will be required to debate factors which could include the fact that Mr. Floyd was particularly vulnerable, and Mr. Chauvin was a uniformed police officer acting in a position of authority, and the presence of children at the scene. A conviction of second or third degree murder will likely result in celebrations amongst campaigners and activists of police reform. Crucially, for campaigners, with few cases of police officers in the US being charged or convicted over deaths in custody, the outcome would set precedent for future incidents. There is large amounts of witness testimony and evidence for the jurors to consider, and it's unclear how long this will take the jury to announce a decision. Predicting the length of jury deliberations is difficult. Well, the Telegraph seems to want to. Last week, Judge Peter Cahill turned to the jurors and warned them to pack a bag when they returned on Monday. If I were you, I would plan for long deliberations and hope for short, he said. But yet we're still waiting for these guys. What are they up to? The Telegraph. The Torygraph. Have you put this up presumptively on an assumption with not even a thumbnail? Or is there actually going to be a verdict tonight? Well, I'm going to leave this running in the background. Torograph are having a freaking joke. 7:25 they've changed it to now. An oddly specific number. No, 7:45. Torograph are trying to win like some kind of competition on how many times they can change the live stream thingy. What are they doing? I've had this stupid thing up for the last 3 hours. I've now been joined by the Washington Post, who, hey, look at this. And the stupid Torograph are still stuck there. The amount of evidence, just the amount of exhibits, the amount of witnesses, detailed arguments, they've gone through that pretty quickly. So I'm going to guess that it's a guilty verdict. I'm not going to guess what charge they've convicted him of, though. The murder trial I was a jury member on last year, it took us less than 2 hours. I mean, the trial itself lasted nearly 3 weeks, and it took us 2 hours. Less than 2 hours. But I'm guessing that, given that this is such a high-profile case, you know, I kind of think that the jury is going to be guessing themselves, second-guessing themselves. But the facts, I'm quite sure the facts speak for themselves. American justice fascinates me because they release like the ethnicity, the gender, the age range of the jurors. We don't get that in Britain. That would be so interesting for us as psychologists. We'd have a field day with this information.
Members of the jury, I will now read the verdicts as they will appear in the permanent records of the 4th Judicial District.
I'm so nervous.
State of Minnesota, County of Hennepin, District Court, 4th Judicial District. State of Minnesota Plaintiff versus Derek Michael Chauvin, Defendant. Verdict, Count 1. Court file number 27, CR 20-12646. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to Count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty.
Yes!
Verdict agreed to this 20th day of April, 2021 at 1:44 p.m. Signed, juror foreperson, juror number 19. Same caption, verdict, count 2. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 2, third-degree murder, perpetrating an eminently dangerous act, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April, 2021 at 1:45 p.m. Signed by jury foreperson, juror number 19. Same caption, verdict, count 3. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 3, second-degree manslaughter, culpable negligence, creating an unreasonable risk, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April, 2021 at 1:45 p.m. Jury foreperson 019. Members of the jury, I'm now going to ask you individually if these are your true and correct verdicts. Please respond yes or no. Juror number 2, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 9, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 19, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 27, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 44, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 52, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 55, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 79, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 85, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 89, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 91, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 92, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Are these your verdicts, so say you one, so say you all?
Yes.
Members of the jury, I find that the verdicts as read reflect the will of the jury and will be filed accordingly. I have to thank you on behalf of the people of the state of Minnesota for not only jury service, but heavy-duty jury service. What I'm going to ask you to do now is to follow the deputy back into your usual room, and
take him down
to answer questions and to advise
take
you
him
further.
down.
So, all rise for the jury. With the guilty verdicts returned, we're going to have Blakely. You may file a written argument as to Blakely factors within 1 week. The court will issue findings on the Blakely factors, the factual findings, 1 week after that. We'll order a PSI immediately returnable in 4 weeks. And we will also have a briefing on, after you get the PSI, 6 weeks from now, and then 8 weeks from now, we will have sentencing. We'll get you the exact dates in a scheduling order. Is there a motion on behalf of the state?
Your Honor, the state would move to have the court revoke the defendant's bail and remand him into custody pending sentencing.
Bail is revoked, bond is discharged, and the defendant is remanded to the custody of the Hennepin County Sheriff.
Take him down.
All right. Thank you.
The breaking news of a verdict that will make an imprint on American history. You're watching a Washington Post special report. Let's recap the verdict and the headlines. On the charge of second-degree unintentional murder, the jury found Derek Chauvin guilty. On the charge of third-degree murder, the jury found Derek Chauvin guilty. And on the charge of second-degree manslaughter, the jury found Derek Chauvin guilty. So he is found guilty on all 3 counts. As you heard, he was remanded into custody right away. Hard to read the reaction on his face as he's wearing his mask and that of his lawyer. You can see there are people gathered outside the courthouse embracing and cheering on what they see as an act of justice. This case was unique in that what's thought of as the blue wall fell. Members of law enforcement, a person who trained Derek Chauvin, the chief of police of Minneapolis, testified against him and testified against his actions. We did not see the jury. We do not know their names. They are anonymous until the judge decides it is safe to reveal who they are. But these 12 men and women, these 12 Minnesotans, have decided that Derek Chauvin is guilty of murder.